this, but some people call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they call me a lot worse than I call them.
A lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
I believe you have to fight fire with fire.
Politics is a dirty game.
It is a dirty game.
Oh, wow. Brilliant analysis, Lex. Thank you.
I think we'd probably have a better world if everybody in Congress took some mushrooms, perhaps.
First of all,
what the fuck is this Joe Rogan ass convo, bro? What is happening? Are these cuts? Like, is Donald Trump stoned? What is happening? Why is he so fucking low energy? What the hell's going on with this convo, dude? I'm going to warn you that this interview is going to infuriate you a lot. I mean, it already has pissed me off. It started off with a bunch of fucking silly ass takes, so.
I can tell you it takes guts to run. It's also a very dangerous profession, if you want to know the truth, but dangerous in a different sense too. But it takes a lot of courage to run for president. It's not easy, but you have, and you know, the same people as I do, there are a lot of people that would like to run for president that are very, very successful in business, but they don't have the guts to do it.
Dude, this is boring as fuck, dude. That's crazy. I'm not alone in this, right? Like, this is, this got no fucking juice, dude. He's like, oh yeah, people are too afraid of running for president. I'm not. It's very scary. It's not boring at all. Really? I would love to examine your brain chatter. Holy fuck. I want to know. I want to know what has happened. Yeah, the Theo Von one was like way more interesting because like, it's not worse than the other interview, but it does make him seem normal. No, the Theo Von one was like interesting because Theo Von is like an entertaining person. And it unironically humanized him more, I think. This is just like fucking boring. He's like, oh, people can't talk in front of an audience for an hour and 30 minutes. It's like, this just sucks, dude.
And you've talked about the war in Ukraine and that you would be able to find a deal that both Putin and Zelensky would accept. What do you think that deal looks like?
I think the deal, and I wouldn't talk about it too much because I think I can make a deal. If I win as president-elect, I'll have a deal made, guaranteed. That's a war that shouldn't have happened. It's terrible. Look, Biden is the worst president in the history of our country, and she's probably worse than him. That's something that should have never happened, but it did happen.
Dog, I genuinely don't understand how like Lex conducts these interviews where he will just like say certain things. Like, I know he's like the only centrist in the country, okay? Like the actual centrist, okay? Because he'll do this and then he'll talk to like a straight up communist and say the exact same like glaze and praise, right? Like, I'm 100% certain that if he talked to Kamala Harris, I suspect he would do this exact same thing. Like, he would say something along the lines of like, you know, you did a great job as you know, many people say you did a great job as vice president or some shit. You know what I mean? Because like, it's like a robotic formula, basically, the way that he conducts these interviews. The thing I don't understand, however, is that like, how can you say that with a fucking serious face that Donald Trump would be like, you're the great deal maker? Like, what do you mean? What deals has he made, dude? He has like 8 bankruptcies. Can you name some of the great deals that he has made? I don't think he's done any good deals at all. How is Trump not a great deal maker? Explain. Okay, but how can you hate on Trump being a good deal maker? He left the White House much richer than he entered. That's a heck of a deal. Yeah, but those bankruptcy deals be banging. It just doesn't make sense.
And now it's a much tougher deal to make than it would have been before it started. Millions of people. I think the number is going to be a lot higher when you see this all at some point iron out. I think the numbers are going to be, the death numbers are going to be a lot higher than people think.
This is one of the things that fucking annoys the shit out of me. This is one of the things that annoys the living shit out of me. where like Donald Trump can make these like bold statements. Okay. Donald Trump makes these bold statements on a regular fucking basis. And then there's no follow up. There's no like, how are you going to do this? There's never even a, how are you going to pay for it? People have just completely caved on the issue. Like he could just say whatever the fuck he wants. And zero people will be like, okay, that seems like a good idea. How would you do it? Like nobody asked him this shit. What the fuck's going on? And it's wild because like on the other side, you got Kamala Harris can have like a decent policy, and immediately they're like, how are you going to pay for it? And then she describes like, you know, price gouging, which is vague still, right? And how they're going to follow through on the price gouging, like going after price gouging corporations and those promises. And then she'll give like a wishy-washy answer on that. And then people are like, okay, well, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to do this? Yada, yada, yada. Like there is definitely, if I am to look at it seriously, there is definitely a lot of advantages that you get on the Republican side when you're running for office. In terms of like how much your policies are called in the question. Whereas like Democrats being the adult in the room obviously get that adult in the room benefit in terms of like the way people analyze them in the polls, in terms of like the way people vote for the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party, but also simultaneously like they get a shit ton more scrutiny in general. It is a little annoying to see that double standard in the media in general, whereas like for Donald Trump, he'll say something one day and say the exact opposite a couple hours later. And the media will report it as he just said two different things, but never like follow through directly on like where he lands on an issue. And they'll just kind of drop it because he has so successfully evaded ever answering any sort of like policy related issues with a firm commitment. You know, he is more evasive than subscribers at the top of the hour when there is a 3-minute ad break. I mean, look at just what happened for this question. He was asked, what are the details of how you're going to get peace in Ukraine? He was just went, it's a bad war. Biden is bad next. No follow-up, no pressure. One of the only times where I've ever seen Trump be held accountable for his statements was, and this is like, this experience lives in my mind, was the Axios interview he did with Jonathan Swan in the midst of COVID. Do you remember? When like Jonathan, when the Axios interviewer just straight up was like, okay, well, you're wrong. Here's how you're wrong. And he held him accountable for the statements that he made. It ends up making good content in general too. So I think that like liberal media should probably do that a little bit more. Axios is a center-right publication. That's why Donald Trump gave them the interview, which was a mistake for him at the end of the day because he actually was held accountable.
How do you think you'll do in the debate coming up? It's in a few days.
So I've done a lot of debating, only as a politician. I never debated. My first debate was the Rosie O'Donnell debate, right? The famous Rosie O'Donnell debate, the answer. But I've done well with debates. I mean, I became president. And then the second time I got millions more votes than I got the first time. So I was told if I got 63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that and lost by.
Damn, man. If only, oh shit, he's admitting he lost. If only there was like I don't know, like a crazy world-changing global event that occurred that also caused the American government to open up the way that people vote, you know, universal ballot registration, universal access, mail-in ballots across the board, which allowed a lot more people to vote for the Republican Party, but also a lot more people to vote for the Democratic Party.
So maybe let's talk about what it takes to negotiate with somebody like Putin or Zelensky. What do you think works better in those kinds of negotiations? Leverage, of, let's say, friendship? The carrot or the stick? Friendship or sort of the threat of using the economic and military power?
So it depends on who the person is. Everyone's different. Negotiation's interesting because it depends on who the person is. And then you have to guess or know through certain knowledge which is, more important, the carrot or the stick. And with some people it's the stick, and with some people it's the carrot. I think the stick probably is generally more successful in that, we're talking about war. But the kind of destruction that we're witnessing now, nobody's ever seen. I mean, it's a terrible thing, and we're witnessing it all over. We're witnessing it in all parts of the world, and a lot of things are going to get started. Look what's going on.
He says the most basic things, talks like a child. How do people take him seriously? I don't get it. I don't think you understand. Like, one, a lot of people are just fucking stupid. Like, and he communicates to stupid people very well. The basic advantage that he has in this situation is that, yes, a lot of wars have happened under the Biden regime. Some are directly the fault and responsibility of Biden in terms of its continuation. Others aren't necessarily all his fault, but he 100% can take advantage of that. Just like Joseph Robinette Biden was able to take advantage of the fact that COVID happened under Donald Trump. Okay?
I'm an independent. I have a lot of friends who are independent, many of whom like your policies.
Wow. So you guys aren't independent. Okay, got it. I love Americans and their belief that, like, dude, so many Americans just say they're independent and then turn around and be like, but I really like your policies. Like, what policies then? What policies do you like as an independent? The thing I will never understand is, I mean, I guess like they like the massive tax cuts that rich people got. Is that what it is? It's just people who are too embarrassed to admit they're Republican. Yeah. You can be independent and like someone's policies. Dude, the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, when you remove all of the fucking flavoring, is that the Democrats offer less tax cuts, but still offer tax cuts and deregulation. The Republicans offer broader tax cuts and more deregulation. But the major difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is that the Republicans will consistently say it's black and brown people that are causing your life to be shit, and we're going to put harm on them. We're going to do harm to them directly, and then that will magically make your life better, which it never does, but they still say it anyway, and they still make you believe it. That's the major difference. And it's not like the Democrats don't continue along with policies that harm black and brown people either. They do. They just don't present it as like the major difference. And that's the big difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party.
Like the fact that you're a deal maker, like the fact that you can end wars, but they are troubled by
the fact that you can end wars is crazy.
What happened in the 2020 election and statements about widespread fraud and this kind of stuff, fake electoral scheme. What can you say to those independent voters to help them decide who to vote for?
Right. I think the fraud was on the other side. I think the election was a fraud.
Bro, you just said you lost, dog. What do you mean? You said earlier you lost. You can't now turn around and be like, oh, the election was a fraud.
Now you saw in Aurora, Colorado, a group of very tough young thugs from Venezuela taking over big areas, including buildings. They're taking over buildings. They have their big rifles, but they're taking over buildings. We're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let them destroy our country. And in those countries, crime is...
I wonder if Lex Fridman will go, is this true? Will there be a fact check on this? Nah. I live in Colorado. This is such a bullshit talking point. It's not happening. Yeah, good luck explaining that to people. You could be living in that fucking... You could be living in those housing units, okay? And people will still be like, nah. I tried to talk about this with Jank as well last night, and he legitimately believes it. He's like, nah, no, it's real. Like, crime tourism is a real thing that's happening in America. And that it's real. He cannot be reasoned with on this issue. Like, he just straight up said it.
Deportation, one of the solutions you would think about?
Well, you've got to get the criminals out of here fast, right? You know, the people from mental institutions, you got to get them back into their mental institution. No country can afford this. You know, it's just too much money. You look at what's happening in New York and Chicago and LA and lots of places, and you take a look at what's happening. There's no country can afford this. We can't afford it. And we've got to get the bad ones out immediately, and the rest have to be worked on. You know, it's happened before. Dwight Eisenhower was sort of a moderate president, moderate type person, but he hated when he saw people pouring into the country.
Dog is talking about mass deportations under Eisenhower and Operation Dry Front, but in reverse. The word I will not say is a slur. 1.3 million people were deported. Okay. Mexican Americans were deported. Americans of Mexican descent were deported. Okay. Put in concentration camps and fucking deported. You understand? He's literally talking about this as though it's a positive thing. Holy fuck, dude.
And they were nothing like now. You know, I probably got elected in 2016 because of the border. And I told people what was happening and they understood it. And I won the election, and I won the election, I think, because of the border. Our border is 25 times worse right now than it was in 2016. I had it fixed too. I had it the last week of the famous chart that I put up was exactly that. You know the chart? When I looked to the right, I said, there's the chart. Bing.
Bing.
That was not a pleasant experience.
Let me ask you about Project 2025. So you've publicly said that you don't have any direct connection to Project
Nothing. I know nothing about it.
You posted recently about marijuana and that you're okay with it being legalized, but it has to be done safely. Can you explain your policy there?
Well, I just put out a paper. And first of all, medical marijuana has been amazing. It's been, I've had friends and I've had others and doctors telling me that it's been absolutely amazing, the medical marijuana. And we put out a statement that we can live with the marijuana. It's got to be a certain age, to buy it. It's got to be done in a very concerted, lawful way. And the way they're doing it in Florida, I think, is going to be actually good. It's going to be very good. But it's got to be done in a good way. It's got to be done in a clean way. You go into some of these places, like in New York, it smells all marijuana. You can't, the way you've got to.
I fucking hate the Democratic Party, dog. If they, dude, if the Democrats lose marijuana to Donald Trump, I'm going to Brian kill me. Like, it is such a gimme. It's right there. Oh my fucking God, bro. It's like, Not one person believes the GOP will pass pro-marijuana reform laws. Okay, first of all, I don't think you understand what Trump is doing here, okay? This is the RFK Jr. Joe Rogan podcast audience activation, okay? There are plenty of people who have never voted, who are the dumbest people you've ever seen, not because they've never voted, but just like in general, who only fucking consume these goddamn podcasts, who will literally go, oh, dude, I'm voting for Trump because he said he likes marijuana. He's going to make it legal. Oh my God.
Do you know anything about psychedelics? So I'm not a drug guy, but I recently did ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that speak to sort of the health benefits. And
there's already tons of people in weed culture who think Trump legalized hemp, which legalized THCA, aka normal weed, on purpose. He's popular in weed circles more so than you would expect. I mean, that makes sense. They're all fucking potheads that don't know their ass from their elbow. It was not very nice. Okay, potheads, calm the fuck down, okay? Jesus Christ. I'm in favor of legalization. Okay, calm down. You could smoke all the pot that your heart desires, okay? Calm down. This old man said potheads. I know. I'm fucking the devil's lettuce. More pothead slander and alcoholic celebration. Yes. I am pro drunk driving and anti marijuana. I am a 1960s Democrat or conservative. I'm just a 1960s kind of guy.